a kid in the 70s was great, but it did come with a few restrictions, mostly for bedtime. For me, it was 8 o'clock on the dot, even on weekends. No exceptions to that rule. Not until I hit about age 12 in 1980 when my parents seemed to lighten up a little bit. You know what else was cool? Cablevision came to town. Prior to that, where I grew up, we had 2 channels, mostly with local programming, which meant I was about 15 years behind on Gilligan's Island shows. Once I got into horror movies, though, I imagined Gilligan being hunted and turned into meatloaf by his fellow castaways to avoid starvation. Anyway, no longer being restricted to quarters at sundown and getting the TV all to myself at night, I discovered 13 channels of sheer heaven, all courtesy of Peace River Cablevision Limited. Another stroke of genius in the advancement of my late-night TV viewing development came in the form of a large metal rectangular case filled with all the fixings needed to play what we like to call a video cassette. And with a rental store close by that offered quality movies at reasonable rates, I was spending money in there like a man possessed. And the guy at the video store, he didn't even seem to care if my selections were R-rated or unrated. If I walked up and slapped down a copy of The Evil Dead, his cigarette would journey from one side of his mouth to the other. He'd exhale and say, $2, kid. There was absolutely nothing in the world that could match the feelings of utter victory when a 12-year-old kid was given the green light to camp out in front of the TV for the entire night. Anyone who grew up in the 2000s would have no idea what that was like. Every room in the house nowadays has a TV in it, including the crapper. And it's probably considered parental negligence these days to not have your 3-year-old fully up to speed on how to use Netflix. So just appreciate living in a faraway world where you only got the TV for Saturday mornings and after-school specials. Apart from that, you watched what the old man watched. And trust me, to this day, just seeing a picture of Peter Falk is enough to put my occipital lobe on full stroke alert. So, after you have your movie picked out or you've bookmarked a page in TV Guide with your selections of programming for the night, you had a list of survival items which were absolutely essential if you had any inkling that you'd stay awake till dawn. First of all, this was the 80s. We didn't have a pizza place on every corner like today, at least not where I grew up. So I did the next best thing, Chef Boyardee's Pizza Magic. Turn any slice of ordinary bread into your very own Italian-style pizza sensation. So good that you'd think the pizza guy brought it. Next, $5 back in those days got you a considerable amount of candy. My personal favorites were Wigwags, Rum and Butters, and Sweet Marie's, and a tube of Pringles. All this would be washed down with no less than 2 liters of Pop Shop Cola. I'd make my bed in front of that woodgrain cabinet TV we had, a monstrous 25 inches of viewing pleasure looming over me like a Coliseum Jumbotron. It was time to get down to business. Late-night TV was a crapshoot in those days, even with Cablevision. Most of the major networks had a made-for-TV late-night movie, and more often than not, they were boring crime dramas featuring secret agents globe-trotting to Moscow and back, chasing diamond thieves, or endless airport hijacking movies. I like the one where the jumbo jet sank into the ocean, but Jesus, did they have to show it every other weekend for 6 straight years? Every once in a while when I came home from the video store empty-handed and unwilling to gag my way through another evening of the Amityville Horror, which I incidentally pirated when a friend of mine brought his own VCR over and we made copies, I'd flip open the TV Guide and staring back at me, The Night Stalker or Salem's Lot, I'd almost weep with relief, and out came the jar of Pizza Magic. The only thing I didn't have on my side, most of the time, was staying power. Years of early-to-bed training had me borderline institutionalized when it came to sleep, and no matter how hard I fought it, I'd get about 3/4 of the way through a movie and be out like a light. Then I'd wake up 3 hours later when the channel was either blaring static after the rental movie ended, or I'd get to watch the last 3 minutes of the day's programming before the channel went off the air. It was only about 3 in the morning, but if you made it that far without falling asleep, you felt like you had some bragging rights. So you made it through to the end of the movie. So then what? Laying there in the dark where the kind of noises that only come out at night began echoing from afar, the moonlight casting a vague shadow on the wall, and you watch in horror as it slowly climbs its way across the room. From the hallway, you're positive you hear footsteps, slow and shuffling and coming closer with every step. That's usually when my pirated copy of Amityville went back into the machine, despite its gag reflex being tested, and I'd drift off to sleep with the sounds of James Brolin showing nothing but love and respect for his children. I love the convenience of today's at-your-fingertips 24-hour TV and all the horror movies to last a lifetime one click away. But nothing tops the 80s and that 45-minute walkthrough of the video store. Nothing tops Pizza Magic or camping out in front of the TV. I still fall asleep in front of the TV, and most of the time, my wife is curled up next to me on the couch. The Pizza Magic has been replaced by Pizza Hut, and that copy of the Amityville Horror, it was chained inside a crate and dropped into the deepest part of the ocean, where it could never hurt anyone ever again. But the fun factor is still there. Some habits will never die. But I've never missed a time frame in my life more than when I was that age. Man, does anyone? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and drop a comment down below if you also TV room camped back in the 80s.
Bye now.